West Virginia versus Arizona, but can Neal survive is the real question.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. You've landed here again in another edition of Locked On West Virginia, brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Place your first $5 bet and get $200 free in bonus bets. That's only at FanDuel.com. Make sure you go there to get started. And thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every single day, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. On this episode, obviously, we're going to be talking about none other than the West Virginia Mountaineers, but also the Arizona Wildcats in a game that features 2, 3, and 4 teams. And to do that, I've got a guy, Saul Bookman, man. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah.
No problem, man. And it's going to be a heck of a game, I think. It's one of those games that's kind of going to – I think it could be a really good game. I think it's possibly could get lost under some of the negativity going on between both. It's going to be on TV, and so and there's a lot of stars in the game for me, anyways. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to tune in to see Tet McMillan. A lot of people are going to tune in to see Feid. Man, 2 quarterbacks who just haven't lived up to it this year so far are definitely Noah Feid and Garrett Green. And you were telling me off camera a little bit why that is, and it's just that the offense have kind of been plain Jane. Is that pretty much how you would describe it?
Yeah, for whatever reason, there's just not been a lot of imagination to this offense whatsoever. It's kind of funny. Every week we do this simulation on EA Sports, and we simulate it, the game itself, and then we see how it goes. And from the jump of the season, like the games were like 10-7, 14-10, like very low scoring games. And I was just like, come on, this offense is going to put up like 30 plus points a game. There's no way. Yeah. Well, fast forward, and I mean, they're lucky if they can score 14 a game offensively, right? Like, it's just been a slog, and I just feel like that's because of the lack of imagination on the offensive side of the ball. They have not been able to find different ways to position T-Mac to get open. They haven't really done a lot of things in terms of like moving him to the slot, or putting him in motion to the opposite side, or even just do some like reverses or some simple handoffs just to get the ball in his hands, right? Because he's the best athlete on the field for Arizona, straight up. And for him to only touch the ball since the very first game of the season, when he had the single game record for Arizona with 10 catches and over 300 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. He has yet to score a touchdown. He's averaging 6 receptions a game, and he's only averaging less than 80 yards a game. And that is just, for somebody that at the beginning of the season was potentially going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick, that is just wildly way too low. I don't care if he's getting quadruple teamed out there. They've got to find a way to get him the ball. And that's just, it's been problematic.
Interesting, man. You know, as talented as he is, I guess you just make assumptions these guys are going to be able to get open. But you know what? At the end of the day, there's smart people on the other side of the football that can scheme up whatever. Once tape gets out there on you, which the tape's out there on Noah too, I think. And that's another thing that I had heard one person mention. Look, there's tape out on that guy. Good defensive coordinators will scheme against his weaknesses. And the same thing for Garrett Green. Really, Garrett Green led the nation last year in big-time throws with 31, which is explosive throws down the field. He also led in Pro Football Focus in big-time throw percentage and big-time throw rate. This year it has not been the case, not at all. And a lot of that's attributed to we don't have a downfield threat. We're very much a 15 yards and in type of offense. And that's obviously going to affect a guy who in his best throw is the downfield throw. So that's an unfortunate. Who do you think needs it more, though? I think that's an interesting question because you had mentioned the season was supposed to play out differently for you guys, and it just hasn't. A lot of pressure on a first-year coach. This could really get his tenure off on the wrong foot if things continue to go south. There's still a lot he can do to win fans over the rest of the year with what games remain, West Virginia's in a much different place. Just curious of your perspective on both.
Yeah, I think, it's hard because these fans, obviously Wildcats fans, feel like he was handed a golden ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not been able to cash in on it whatsoever, right? And I think, listen, I think every coach has a tenor or a tone to their program that they like to run by, and whether fair or not, it doesn't matter what's happening internally. It doesn't matter what's happening on campus. It's the optics of everything, right? And so from the jump, basically censoring players from being able to talk to the media, freely. The marketing of Arizona football just was not very great. Brennan himself said that it's not his job to market the program, where I disagree. I absolutely disagree. Like, you're the face of the program. You will be the face of the program. Like, I don't understand that mindset, right? Like, now I don't have to agree with it as long as the product on the field is showing like you don't have to worry about it. If they were 7-0 or 6-1 right now, I wouldn't care at all. Exactly. But you're not. You're 3-4. You're wildly underachieving with a team that was expected to compete for a Big 12 championship. Mm-hmm. And because of that, there's a lot of people that are questioning, can they let him go after the first season? Mm-hmm. Should they let him go? I think at a minimum, they're talking about overhauling the entire offensive staff because it has just not lived anywhere close to the expectations that were provided. And listen, I think, you were talking with me earlier today about your center that left to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The name escapes me. Zach Frazier, right? I think that all of us as fans think that we can plug in and play certain players at certain positions. But right. I do think that Jacob Cowing leaving, obviously was a senior, so it wasn't like by choice. Him leaving and going to the 49ers is something that had really, really significant effects on this offense, because now it's a lopsided balance to T-Mac's side, and they don't have to worry about threat on the other side because the other receivers in Montana and Lamonius Craig, Ramilla Murphy and crew just have not been able to meet that standard that Jacob Cowing was able to present.
Yeah, very interesting. And another thing you'd mentioned that really I wanted to draw a comparison to West Virginia on. So when Bob Huggins got fired, obviously somebody that was underneath him and Josh Eilert for a long time was brought in. Who did he hire? 3 former program players, 3 former West Virginia players. That did not go well for that situation specifically. The situations were a little different in that they had to build basically a brand new team out of nothing, and you guys had a ready-made team. But, that hometown boys don't always get it done. And, and you want them to more so than just your average Joe because it means something to them. Not always the best answer. That's something we're dealing with in West Virginia right now. Everybody wants Jimbo Fisher because he's from West Virginia, or Nick Saban because he's from West Virginia. Well, obviously, both of those are high price tag guys to even start with. But it's not always – you don't have to always have the hometown guy. You just have to have the guy that makes it work. So I'm not saying you're criticizing those guys as coaches, just saying it don't always work.
Yeah, no, I'll criticize a million%. Like, listen, man, Dino Babers has not lived up to expectations, right? And like, there's a reason why he was let go at Syracuse. He wasn't,
he ran like a Big Ten style offense.
Yeah, it was not, it was not very imaginative, which is crazy because if you watch Brett Brennan's team last year at San Jose State, they had some wrinkles to their offense that were kind of exciting. And so when I saw this, I was like, man, I'm kind of pumped. I'm excited to see, a lot of tight end action, a lot of end arounds or misdirection, a lot of things that will fool you on the surface if you're a defense and you're not prepared for it, right? Like, it makes you think constantly. That's not happening right now. It's almost predictable. It's almost laughably predictable right now where, okay, it's 3rd and 1. We're going to go delayed handoff, and we're not going to get this first down. Or Noah Fafita is going to drop back 5 yards, and that slant route's not going to be there. And maybe he didn't see the blitz coming from the other side. So then he drops back another 10 yards and then throws a pick down the middle, right? Like, there's just these things that they have not been able to account for. Noah Fafita has regressed to a degree. It's hard for me to put it totally on Noah. I think there's just some fundamental things that Noah's doing that he needs to clean up. And I think he would say that too. Noah's one of the most stand-up guys you could ever come across, right? Like he always takes the blame himself. He's never deflected. He understands the position that he's in at the University of Arizona, and he wants to live up to those expectations. But the performance on the field with 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions is not going to cut it. And he knows that. The entire team knows that. But I'm at the point right now, Paul, where I'm like, I don't give a damn about all this. Like, I don't care about this. I need to see something on the field because I'm tired of watching this team drop 4 out of its last 5 and basically get eliminated from any type of contention to anything significant.
You heard it there from Saul Bookman. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, we're going to talk about the key players in this game keys, and can Neal Brown survive another loss? That's next on Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed. When you place your first $5 bet, all you got to do is go to FanDuel.com to get started. Arizona in their favor as we continue on here. West Virginia +3 in the game. Keep checking it out, guys, up until game time to see if any money comes in on the Mountaineers. Keep checking FanDuel for those results. We are back with Saul Bookman. Man, this is a game that could have some huge consequences. I told you on your show earlier, West Virginia loses this game, there could be some major changes going into the bye week. I don't know if it'll be Neal Brown. I don't know if it'll be defensive coordinator Jordan Leslie. I don't know who it'll be, but fans are going to demand for it if that happens. Both teams haven't looked good against good competition. I feel like these teams are both bottom half of the Big 12 type teams. They both, look at some of the scores that you guys have had, for instance, 31-7 against Kansas State, 41-19 against BYU, 34-7 against, obviously West Virginia got bulldozed against Kansas State as well. And I wanted to ask you, I think a thing that a lot of the Pac-12, the Pac guys coming in didn't realize is there's just not any layups in this conference. This is a very tough conference to play in. I'm not trying to get into is it better than the Pac-12 necessarily, what we're used to be. But the Big 12 as a football conference is tough week to week and really physical.
Yeah, I think I don't know if anybody underestimated it because I certainly
Utah fans did.
Utah fans are different. Utah fans are
they were so they're eating so much crow right now.
Oh yeah, well, and it's well deserved. Like again,
yeah,
Cam Rising is a big factor because he just hasn't looked like himself. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, and listen, I've said since the start of the season, like playing on the road in the Big 12 is one of the toughest things you could possibly do. Because the environments are so wildly different than they were in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. You're not going to LA. You're going to Ames, Iowa. You're not going to, to Seattle. You're going to Manhattan, Kansas, or you're going to, West Virginia, obviously Morgantown. So it's just the intensity of these games. And then on top of that, like, listen, like the level of football is, I think across the board, the average level of football is better than it was in the Pac, although the top tier talent was way better in the Pac than it is right here in the Big 12, right? Like I think you're talking about Oregon, Washington, USC's of the world. Like those are 3 premier programs across the country.
Now that Oklahoma and Texas are gone, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Big 12 is searching for that team, and I don't think the programs themselves will ever represent that caliber, but you will get consistent flashes of brilliance like we've seen in this conference from not only from West Virginia, but also Kansas State. We've seen that. Oklahoma State's been there. These teams have always been. Iowa State right now is on fire. They've been right there at the end of the season, close to a CFP. And then you're looking at a team that surprises like BYU. And so I think overall the teams, West Virginia and Arizona were 2 teams that people were like sleeper picks to win the conference potentially, or at least get to the Big 12 championship.
Right.
And then conversely, what's happened is Colorado's played better than expected. BYU's played far better than anybody's expected. Iowa State's played better than expected. And so, the teams that were supposed to be maybe quote unquote middle to lower tier have thrived. And that's what makes this conference so unpredictable year after year.
You're 100% right. You're absolutely crushed it. Just first year in. Not bad there, Saul. Let's focus on this game, man. Impact players. Like, who is going to impact this game on offense for the Wildcats? Who's going to impact this game on defense for the Wildcats, if anybody? And then I'll mention a couple West Virginia players.
So I think I'm only going to name one player because I really feel like it's totally up to him as to where this is going. It's not T-Mac. It's not Quali Conley. It is Noah Fafita.
Right.
Noah Fafita has started to run the ball a little bit more, which I think he needs to, because this offensive line now with Rhino Tapatuite is gone, out for the season. They've been depleted. They've been ravaged with injury as well. Not quite the top tier offensive line that they had a year ago with Jordan Morgan, but they still have Jonas Avenea, who's expected to go in the first or second round of the NFL draft. So they have a side of that offensive line that is going to be solid, but it's up to Noah Fafita to be able to read defenses, rally the troops, and really play a solid game from top to bottom. You can't throw for less than 200 yards in the Big 12 and expect to win, especially if you're not rushing for over 150. Right. That's just not going to happen. And so Noah Fafita's legs are going to play a large part of this, because I do believe that if he scrambles a little bit more, or at least scrambles and gets out of the pocket instead of dropping back 45 yards, it feels like, and throwing a pick over the middle, I think that there's room to make plays. But unfortunately, what I'm getting to is the ad-libbing of this offense, and really the necessary ad-libbing, because the Wildcats are wildly predictable right now. They just are. And it's going to be up to Noah Fafita to kind of break that up by ad-libbing and getting out of the pocket and maybe using his legs to scramble for some yardage.
Wow. I appreciate that, man. I really do. It's going to be a really interesting game. And I'll tell you what, here's another thing. Garrett Green's going to be out of the game. Most likely. That's what we've heard. Now, I don't know. He hasn't practiced much. He's really banged up. I wouldn't be surprised to see him not play, but Neal Brown is a huge Garrett Green fan. If he doesn't play, a player very familiar to Arizona people will play. Nico Markiel, former Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year out of Hamilton, will start this game. High-end 4-star player, is the heir apparent. A lot of people, he's our superstar of the future. But we don't. It doesn't feel that way because we don't know what's going to happen with Neal. Obviously,
yeah.
A lot of people have wanted this to happen for more than a couple games, so it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like. Nico's won several games throughout his career in spot duty behind Garrett. And he's looked really good in some and not so great in others. The offense doesn't change. He can really run. He's a much better thrower. So we'll see where that goes. But West Virginia begins and ends with the offensive line. Wyatt Milam, the best offensive lineman in the league by quite a long shot if you just go by numbers and where he's projected to be in the draft. He hasn't allowed a sack or a pressure in 3 years on the left side for West Virginia now. You would think that would be almost impossible to do, but he has done it. He's the highest rated at Pro Football Focus offensive lineman probably out in this game. So unfortunately, that's a huge thing. His backup pretty good though. So we'll see what happens there. But on defense, another guy that's really done well for West Virginia, TJ Jackson, may be out for this game. I texted him the other day. He wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I guess we'll know on game time for him as well. But then he's really got after the quarterback this year. On defense, I would say the major person to look for Arizona fans will be Josiah Trotter. So the Trotter name may be well known for a lot of people based on his dad, Jeremiah Trotter. And Josiah has lived up to that as a freshman. Calling the defense, he's got the green sticker on his helmet as a true freshman, redshirt freshman.
He's one of the best linebackers in the country.
He is.
Straight up, great player.
He's gonna get 7 figures if he leaves. Somebody's gonna offer him a lot of money if Neal Brown gets fired and he wants to leave. So he'll be fun to watch. Maybe they'll spy your guy with him. So before we go to break here, give me a couple of keys to this game. What's it going to look like if Arizona wins this game?
Yeah, I think defensively is where you got to start because, West Virginia's rushing attack could really do a number on you if you're not ready for it. And I think Arizona has at times risen to the occasion. You saw this against Utah when they were trying to go short yardage and they weren't able to get it. And I feel like those plays kind of turned the tide of the game and gave Arizona a lot of momentum to follow through and win that game. I think last week against Colorado, they didn't hold up terribly against the run. And so you're looking at a guy like Trey Smith off the edge that's got to be able to impose his will. He leads the team in sacks, not a lot of sacks. It's only 2.5, but he has been the one that has consistently applied the most pressure from the edge. And then their front, like, listen, again, this is a defense that has been ravaged by injury.
Right.
Trayden Stukes out for the year. Gunnar Maldonado just had surgery. He may or may not be back by the end of the year. But listen, if they don't have a winning record, I can all but guarantee you Gunnar Maldonado is not coming back. There's no reason for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then last week they lose their linebacker, their star linebacker, and Jacob Manu to a torn ACL. So everything that could go wrong for this team has gone wrong for this team, and so you're looking for them to kind of do it by committee. They got to play with effort. They got to play with passion and pride, and they got to play with purpose. And I think the one thing about Dwayne Aquina is that he has gotten this team into position to be able to execute at the very best they can, right? But again, when you're playing against top-tier talent, you're going to be limited when you're going back to your second and third string players, and you can only expect so much. That's why everything falls on the offense. So Arizona wins this game if the offense snaps out of its funk. They put up 30-plus points, and they're able to limit the damage by West Virginia's rushing attack. If they can do that, then I think they can feel pretty good about the outcome of Saturday.
I think for West Virginia, imposing their will, that's what they've done in every game they've won. They obviously put 400 up on Oklahoma State rushing. They can do it. Jaheim White, one of the better running backs in the Big 12. C.J. Donaldson, one of the better running backs in the Big 12. Both would start any number of places. They play together in a shared backfield, and they do it well. Unfortunately, little help for them. Cole Taylor at tight end is outstanding. But outside of that, the offense for the West Virginia Mountaineers has struggled most of the year. I think West Virginia is going to have to run the ball in this game. Nico Marchiol is going to be on the road, most likely, unless there's been news today that's come out said something about Garrett playing. If Garrett Green plays, it changes the dynamics of this game in West Virginia's favor quite a bit more for me, but don't know what's going to happen. So I think West Virginia's going to control the clock. That's how they won most of the games this year. Win the first downs. Neal Brown there's a marker when he gets 20 first downs in the game, almost unbeatable. So that's something I always look for in a West Virginia game with Neal Brown. And then the West Virginia pass defense has to hold up. They're ranked in the 130s. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. Now, consider that West Virginia has probably played the toughest schedule in the Big 12 with Pitt. I mean, listen, the teams that West Virginia, if you look at the winning record of the teams that West Virginia's lost to, it's incredible. 27-2. So it was Penn State, Pitt, Iowa State, all undefeated. Kansas State, one loss. So it's the 27-1. So a lot of that is due to schedule and unfortunately scheduling out of conference teams that are really good.
Yeah.
So I think that's what West Virginia has to do. On the next end of the break, guys, we're going to give a prediction on this game. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money in sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made a daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least the two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Address at least one bullet point. That's all you have to do. Just go in there, select it, and you're good to go. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only one that has real money daily from a fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are safe, fast, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. Think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? What about Christian McCaffrey, 75.5 yards? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run game on Prize Picks. It's the best way to win real money this offseason. So which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money and do it all season long. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you play $5 on your first lineup. That's Locked On College. And download the app today. It is highly encouraged to run your game. All right, back with at Saul_Bookman on X. Tell them a bit about your YouTube.
Yeah, man. So I'm actually the regional director of operations for the All City Network, and we have 5 cities across the country right now that we're running shows from, and we do 5 live shows a week for all the major teams and some college teams, depending on what the market is. So here in Phoenix, we cover the University of Arizona, Arizona State, and then we do the Cardinals, Suns, and obviously the Diamondbacks. We have 2, 3, 4-person teams for each one of those, and it's kind of like you guys. It's all day, every day. It's built for fans that just want to consume all the content they can for their favorite teams. And so the AZ Wildcats podcast is, it's alive and well. It's hosted by my guy Mike Luke. I do a lot of the supplemental content and because I don't have. Listen, I'm not trying to like gloat or anything like that, but like I don't have a lot of time. And so I have to pick and choose my spots wisely in order to jump on these things. So I can't be on the live shows, but so this is how I get my fix because I'm a big Arizona Wildcats fan, a graduate of the program. And so, yeah, man, it's been fun. It's been fun.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all your success and wish you a ton more.
Appreciate it.
Speaking of the Wildcats, are they going to get a win this week?
Oh, man, I don't know. Listen, I think when you look at this team defensively, you can't really expect much. And so if West Virginia plays solid football, I think they probably come out with the win. But if West Virginia, is a little sloppy or a little off and Noah Fafita and company can actually put it together, then I think Arizona could easily win. I think at some point in time, and I do think that Noah Fafita is going to will this team to victory at some point this season, right? He has had 4 straight games of under a 70 rating according to PFF. That is not good at all. His last
average.
Yeah, his last 70 rating or better was against Kansas State. And he's only had 2 ratings that were 70 or better. That Kansas State game and then the first game of the season against New Mexico when they put up 60+ points. So he has not lived up to expectations. And so I expect that to snap this week. So I will be the homer, and I will say that I expect Arizona to win, but it'll be by the narrowest of margins. I think you're looking at like a 30-28 dub at home, but I don't feel very confident about it. I'll say that.
I don't know which way to go on this, even now, because there's so much turmoil around our program. If everything was everything and everything was normal, I would pick West Virginia and feel fairly confident about it. I really would. And I just don't know where's the buy-in, because I think you got to check buy-in in a situation like West Virginia's in right now. Speaking of the players, they're telling me that they're bought in, that the coaches do a good job from keeping them getting too low. I don't know how much I believe it's all. I'm going to pick Arizona to win this game. It's not because I want West Virginia. Some people have accused. I would never pick against the West Virginia Mountaineers like that. I first of all, I loved too many of these players and their families to ever do that.
Yeah.
But and I don't believe in it as a fan. But I think McMillan is going to figure it out. We don't have any answers for that, and we're down our safety that most people consider our best back end guy. So that's another one in Burks. So we're going to have to try to figure that out, and I think it's going to be a 31-27 Arizona win. That's my guess on the road. So we'll see what plays out.
I mean, you see, like even you said, like I've always thought the threshold was 30 plus points for Arizona, and so both of us picking an Arizona Wildcats win with 30 plus points would track with that. I also want to go to one more point that you just kind of made about the people and the players, right? I think that's what hurts the most about this season so far for Arizona fans is that when Jedd Fisch left, he tried to poach every significant player possible, and a majority of that core stayed here. Only a couple players took off and went with him to Seattle, but everybody stayed, and the vibes were at an all-time high because you just don't see that in today's day and age where you keep a majority of your roster intact, right? And so the feeling was like, man, they got to do this. Not only do they have to do this to kind of prove a point, but they have to do this to solidify that good people can win at a high level in college football. And I think that the core of this team and the people, not only the players, but the families that support them are some of the best you'll ever come across. I mean, some of the best, but unfortunately is not translated on the field. And I think that's what hurts the most for fans is because we really wanted to believe and we wanted to feel like this might be the first time in school history we can get back-to-back double-digit win seasons, and it just has not worked out that way, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I still have memories of McMillan and Feid walking into the Arizona game with that big donor.
Yeah.
So, and
feels like it was 10 years ago.
Feels like it was 10 years ago. It feels like it was 10 years ago Kirk Creesa was playing in Mountaineers uniform.
Hey, I was a Kentucky Wildcat. Did you like Kerr when he was there for the year?
Loved him.
Yeah.
He's one of those players that, and you know this better than me, even everybody else hates him that plays against him, but you love him.
Yes.
Just like if I had to play against him, I would have probably hated him too, because like my buddy said, he's kind of got a punchable face when he's winning.
I love Kirk Creesa. I thought it was good for him to go because it was time for somebody else to take over. I from a talent perspective, he's okay. But I just love the antics, and you're right. He's like our version of Pat Beverly, right?
Yeah,
like, he's just an instigator, and you love it if he's on your team.
I love that he picked West Virginia because of Bob Huggins' truck. That cracked me up. He said, "I got in that truck, that old '70s style truck," and he was like, "I could just tell this was legit," because he signed up because of Hugs, as most people did. I mean. You understand when you got a Hall of Fame coach, it's easier to recruit. So we love DeVries. I'll tell you that we're excited about this year too. We'll talk basketball another time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining, Saul. Man, it's been fun. We'll have to do it again, and maybe we'll even do something with John Kurtz come basketball season. You never know.
Oh, I love that.
So everybody, make sure you go check out Saul and check him out on YouTube. Where is it again?
It's at PHNX_sports on YouTube. Just type in PHNX and it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Is that an abbreviation of Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go, guys. You know where he's at. Make sure you check him out for any kind of Arizona Wildcats, Cardinals, or anything related to that. And we'll be here. Before we go, I have to ask you, though, and thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today. For your second listen, if you could check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast, Drake Toll. You know you guys love Drake. He leads the conversation in conference realignment news, and he really pulls no punches when it comes to covering every team in the Big 12. Find him on Locked On Big 12 or on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. For Saul, for Paul, we're out.